Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar from Annika Digital. It's myself and Stanley and Sarah Ross today. As Sarah is going to be presenting on creating content for SEO and PR. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to do a poll and then I'll pass over to Sarah. So what will happen is I'll read the poll out and you'll be able to answer the questions. So let me just start polling now. Whoops, let me just get the right button. I'll just press the wrong button. Let me just press it. Okay, start polling now. So the poll today is, do you or your company produce content for marketing purposes? And you can pick a tick as many as you like. So, because some of them can be, you can do more than one thing. So I know I'm a student or I'm not currently working at the moment. No, the company I work for is not currently creating content for marketing. Yes, we do create traditional content like leaflets, brochures, catalogs, etc. Yes, we do have some digital content such as emails, marketing, social media. I think that one's the first one that's come up. Hopefully you can all see the poll. Can you see it, Sarah? You can.
Yeah.
Yes, we do produce content for our website, but it's not optimized for SEO purposes. Yes, we did optimize the content of our website, but we do not update or add to it. Yes, we do optimize content on an ongoing basis for our website for SEO, e.g. blogs. That looks quite a popular one. Yes, we do create content specifically for link building. Yes, we do PR for brand awareness, but not for link building and link earning. Yes, we do PR for awareness and link building and link earning. Okay, so let's see what the most popular one is. So the most popular one is 33%. We do some digital content such as email marketing, social media. So it's great that you've got the skills in-house. Hopefully we can, Sarah will be able to show you how to use them for other things. And then 20% optimize content on an ongoing basis. So quite a few people are doing blogging, which is great. And then you've got a few people that are doing link building. So they're doing content for link building. And then about 11% are doing PR for brand building. And we only had 3% doing PR for awareness and link building, which is really interesting because there's a huge potential there. So it's quite a mixed audience we've got today. It looks like we've got quite a lot of people that are doing some form of content, but not necessarily in the way that we would use it for SEO and PR. I guess that's why they're here. So just a little bit of housekeeping. So you can get the handouts top right. If you want to ask a question, put it in the chat or in the Q&A. Myself and Mark will be trying to answer those. And then I will send the video out later. And I'll reappear about 5 to, Sarah. So when you see my face, you know you've only got 5 minutes. But have a great webinar and good luck. And I'll speak to you in a little while. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anne. Morning, everybody. So today we're talking about content and creating content for both SEO and PR benefits. So what today's session looks like, we're going to talk about what content is, what it looks like, why it's important for your site, how to complete a content audit and then assess and analyze the content that you have on your site already. And then we're going to look at how we go about developing ideas. And I've got some tools and tactics to show you. And then I'll talk you through how I then use those to start developing ideas and putting together content and then adapting that for PR. So before we start, just a bit about me. So I'm an account director at Annika. I have been with the company for over 6 years now. I've worked in PR for 10 years in total, and I've always been agency side. So I've worked on a lot of different campaigns for different brands, B2C and B2B. And my background's actually in journalism. So I studied journalism. So that gives me a really good understanding of what stories look like and what journalists are looking for in stories. In terms of work that I deliver, so I work on everything from strategy to delivering campaigns for our clients. I develop ideas for content and create content as well, with a view to link building. And then in my own time, I'm a massive music fan. And I am desperate to get back to going to some gigs. So hopefully we can get out of lockdown soon. And Annika, so in terms of brands that we work with some really big names across the Midlands. So people like Experian, Palex, Dykman, and we work across multiple channels for a lot of our clients as well. In terms of specialties, so some of the sectors that we really excel in, manufacturing, medical, logistics, construction, e-commerce, there are real specialties. So let's dive in. What is content? So looking at content and content marketing, it's the strategic creation and distribution of content, and we are developing that with a view to attracting and retaining audiences, and ultimately we want to use that content to drive conversions. And a couple of phrases that are key here are valuable and relevant. So how we go about creating content that's valuable and relevant really lies with the whole process of conducting an audit and understanding what works, what doesn't work, and that helps us to create content that is going to be valuable and relevant for our audience. And why is it important? Well, we know that Google uses many different signals to determine ranking factors for your website, but we know that two of the most important ones are high quality content and backlinks to your website. So creating content that is of a really high quality, is valuable to the audience, that delivers important information, that's really key, and that's going to help us to build backlinks as well. And the overall benefits of content in terms of on-page SEO. So creating our content is it's really quick to implement. So we can write that ourselves. We can publish it on our site fairly quickly. It helps to increase our visibility in Google, helps us to drive traffic to site. Quite often we're creating content that is answering specific customer queries. So it's really valuable for customers that are looking for specific information on problems or questions that they have. So it provides useful resources. It also acts as a trust signal, because if you're regularly updating your site with content and that content is useful for an audience, then you know that gives customers that additional signal that you are an industry leader, you know what you're talking about. And the content is also good for breaking up and sharing on social. So there's plenty of assets that you can create from that. In terms of off-page SEO benefits, so we can use content to help drive referral traffic. It helps us to reach new audiences, but also keeps that brand awareness among existing audiences. It helps to position us as industry leaders. So if we are talking on a topic on a third-party website, so that might be in the media, some sort of news site, you know, that's helping to demonstrate that we know what we're talking about and that we are a key figure in our industry. We can use off-page SEO to highlight new products and services. And that really helps to support and amplify the on-page content that we are creating. by building backlinks to it and ultimately increasing our domain authority, which is the backlink profile of our website. So if we understand what content is and what the benefits of it are, what does that look like? You know, what kind of form does that take? And there are endless possibilities with content. So in terms of written content, we might see case studies, how-to guides, FAQs. These are really valuable content that can sit on your site and provide real value to your customers. But we can also look at things like case studies. That's an additional trust signal. And things like that we can also use for PR activity to talk to certain audiences. Content might also be video. It might take the form of a map. There's been some really great digital PR campaigns in recent years using interactive maps, and they gain real traction in the media and on social as well. But you might also want to create something that's a bit more fun and engaging. So something like a quiz where people can participate in that content. So there's lots of different forms that might take. And when we are planning our content, what we really want to do is make sure that we are including a mix of content so that we are maximizing traffic and we are maximizing visibility. So in terms of the different types of content, what we'll look at is evergreen, first of all. So evergreen content is search optimized content. It sits on your website. It's relevant all year round. It grows traffic over time. It doesn't go out of date, and it's likely to earn you backlinks over time as well. So having evergreen content on your site is really important, because it just, you know, it sits in the background and does its job. You can dip in now and again to update it. There might be some stats in there that need updating annually. So that's evergreen content. So in terms of topical content, so what we mean here is content that is relevant at a certain time. So that might be seasonal. So spring and summer, you see a lot of content around gardens, holidays, those sorts of topics. It might be a specific event-based topic. So there's a lot of national days or national weeks that and they might relate to the industry that you operate in. Or it might be something like Black Friday that's going to attract organic traffic at a really specific time of the year, but then that is going to happen every year. And then we've got reactive content, and this is really time-sensitive content, and it is created to react that something is with a topic that is trending or is currently newsworthy. So it might be something that is actually unfolding as that conversation is happening. So this type of content needs to be produced really quickly, and it might be based around a product, or it could be opinion or advice-based sort of content. So a really good example of what we've seen in the media recently in terms of reactive content, when Christian Eriksen collapsed during Euro 2020, conversations after that event centered around what to do in that situation, talking about CPR and those sorts of topics. So that's a really good example of something that's reactive. And whilst we can't always plan for that, we can build in time that allows us within our content calendar to look at those topics and react to things that are happening. So I've got some examples from the Annika blog to further illustrate what those different types of content look like. So we've got an evergreen piece here that Anne wrote a few years back. This remains one of our, This remains one of our most popular blog posts, so it's gained traction over time, and it is a topic that is always relevant. So how much should you pay an agency to manage your PPC? So that's quite a relevant topic, and that remains quite popular. In terms of topical content, so our head of technical SEO, Suk Singh, put together a blog post about Google's Core Web Vitals update. So this update was related to page speed and page usability. And Google warned us ahead of time that they were going to be rolling out this update and to allow us to advise clients on getting their websites in shape, in order, so they wouldn't be negatively impacted by this update. So because we were warned ahead of time, Suk was able to put together this really useful resource that was topical. So it was about something that was going to be happening, but it talks through, you know, what it is, what the impacts are for your site, and what to do to avoid being negatively impacted. So this content was really useful for our clients because we could share it with them, and it was useful for social as well. And so in terms of reactive content as well, so obviously during the first lockdown, when COVID hit, we were all, you know, not 100% sure what we should be doing. We were getting a lot of questions from clients. They weren't sure what they should be doing with their marketing activities. So what we did was start putting together some resources that could help our clients and other people, whether in marketing or in-house, helping to share advice and what we were seeing and the kind of results that we were seeing. So that was an example of reactive content that we created. And it's important to keep in mind when we are creating content. So, you know, quite often people will create their content, they'll publish their content, and that's it. They don't do anything else with it. But what you really need to keep in mind is that you need to fully research your content. You need to plan it and structure it in a certain way. And most importantly, really, you need to be outreaching it as well. Otherwise, you're not going to reach your audience, and that content is not going to make a huge difference to your site's visibility. So before we start creating content, when we start working with a client, we always complete a content audit. And this is, so it's a data-led approach. It allows us to evaluate where a client is, what their content looks like. It helps us to understand what's working, what isn't working. So what kind of content is bringing in traffic? Where is that traffic coming from? It helps us to research the competition as well. What are they doing in terms of content? We can start developing content ideas whilst we're evaluating, because we start to see the gaps and see how content can be improved. And it's also really important for recording relevant metrics. So when we're starting a project, we want to know what's the domain authority score. So the backlink profile of a website, what does that look like currently? Because we need to measure the impact that we then have on that with our activity. We need to know the visibility score. So how visible your site is in Google for your chosen key phrases. How visible is it compared to your competitors? And recording competitor metrics is really important as well, because that helps to measure the progress that you're making. So if you're thinking, why do I need to complete a content audit? So the reason that it's really valuable to start with an audit is because you've probably got some useful content on your site already that you can repurpose and update. So 51% of marketers say that that's one of the most efficient tactics for them in terms of creating content. And that's because, when we start working with clients, we often see that they've got some really, really useful content. It's really valuable to the audience, but the audience can't find it because it isn't optimized or it isn't structured in a way that Google can read it, or it hasn't been outreached. There are no backlinks to it, so it's not doing its organic job either. So what we want to do, we want to look at opportunities to update and repurpose. But this stat from HubSpot really helps to underline the value that can have. So updating and republishing a blog post with new content and images can increase organic traffic by as much as 106%. So it might be that you've done the hard work in creating that content already, but just a quick refresh might, update that content and make it relevant for now, or to make it more robust in terms of evergreen content. And the stat at the bottom is really key to underlining the importance of tying in PR and doing that outreach once you have created your content. So 91% of all pages never get any organic traffic from Google, and that's mostly due to the fact that they don't have any backlinks. So we've got to keep that in mind when we're creating content. We've got to keep in mind how we're going to outreach it and where we're going to be getting those backlinks from. So why do you need a content audit? So it can help us understand traffic sources. So how's the audience currently getting to your content, and what other methods can you be using to get that content, to get your audience to your content? Understand the aims of your content. So what was it designed for? What was it created for? Is it fulfilling those aims? How visible is it in Google? What kind of engagement is it getting? Is it then helping to convert your traffic? Analyzing and assessing strengths and weaknesses, going back to that point, that can help us to improve existing content. So that's really a quick win in terms of getting content on your site. And it can also help us to identify content gaps and areas for improvement, and introduce a data-led approach. So 52% of B2B companies use data to make marketing decisions. So that's 48% that are just relying on intuition and experience. And the problem with that is that, what you think your audience are doing or what you think your audience want might be completely different to what they actually need. And, we've seen, particularly over the last year, we've really seen customer behavior change. So it's important to get data that shows you what customers are doing. And it can also help you to develop a multi-channel content marketing strategy. So first of all, when I'm doing a content audit, I will look in Google Analytics. So what I want to look at are my blog posts and where the traffic is coming from for those blog posts. So we can see here in this example that most traffic's actually coming via organic search. So that's really good. So our content is visible in Google and people are finding it. But there might be other opportunities via email or via social media that we can also tap into to increase that audience. Also in Google Analytics, we want to be looking at engagement. So how much time are people spending on the page when they're looking at those blog posts? And what's the bounce rate? Because if the bounce rate's high, so if we're talking over 50%, what we want to do is look at ways that we can keep traffic on the site. So why are they bouncing off? Is there another resource that we can direct the audience to that would be valuable for them? We also want to look at Search Console. So this tells us key phrases that we're currently being shown for in Google and what the clicks through are. So this can help us to identify gaps. So it might be that we've got a high number of impressions but low click through. So what we can do then is look at improving title tags and meta descriptions, which are the main thing influencing people to click through to your website when they're in Google. So it might be that we can make quick changes there that might have an improvement, or it might be that we can see some phrases that we want to create additional content around and reinforce our visibility. We also use a tool called Ahrefs. So this is what we use to look at domain authority and the backlink profile of a website. So in this example, the domain authority is 46, and we've got 27,000 backlinks from 395 referring domains. So these metrics we're going to keep an eye on so that we can monitor the impact that our PR activity is then having. Also within Ahrefs, so it has a tool that allows us to do a link intersect, and that allows us to compare our website to competitors and look at where we are getting backlinks from and where our competitors are getting backlinks from, and it highlights gaps. So if our competitors have links from websites and we don't, that's a really good starting point for building our media list for PR activity, because it tells us that if this website is interested in publishing content from a company that's similar, then they're probably going to be interested in our content as well. So that's a really quick way to start building your media list. SEOMonitor, so we use this tool to look at visibility, so how visible we are for specific key phrases that we want to be found for. And again, this using this at the start, we can monitor the impact that our content is then having when we are refreshing that content or creating new content. And we can look at search volumes and current ranking positions using this tool as well. So knowing the search volume is really important, because that helps us to plan our content in a structured way and helps us create content that's going to be visible in Google. We can also use that to monitor competitors. So we will, when we start working with a client, we'll look at what the current position is, and then we will look at competitors, what their position looks like, and we will monitor that over time as well, because that helps to demonstrate the impact that our content is having. And that's just an example of different key phrases and where different websites are ranking for those. So that's an important one to keep an eye on. SEOMonitor also has a tool called Topics. So this is for researching key phrases. So you just put in your phrase that you might want to look at, and then it gives you variations of how that key phrase is being used. So it tells you variations of how the phrase is being used, but it also tells you search volume. So that helps us to start mapping out our content and picking out key phrases that are going to be relevant for the type of content that we want to create, but also valuable for helping us to bring in a new audience and helping to make us more visible in Google. So what we want to do is pull all of this information together, and we want to be asking ourselves some questions as we go along, so that we are assessing the data that we're pulling out of these tools. So how visible is the content currently? How does it compare to our competitors? What key phrase research has been completed previously, if any? What kind of job is that doing? Have those key phrases, or have the search volume for those key phrases changed over time? Are people searching in different ways? How is content currently structured? Are pages fully optimized? Because there might be some quick wins there if the key phrases aren't in the right places, for example. How many internal backlinks are pointing to the page, or how many external backlinks, so backlinks from other websites, are pointing to that page, because those things can all help to make your content more visible. So in terms of analysis and actions, what I would then start doing is looking at the current situation. So I might be looking at my blog posts and I can see, okay, well, I've got some good organic traffic coming via those. That's good. But the bounce rate is quite high. So I might want to think about ways that I can start to reduce that. I might be looking at posts that could benefit from additional optimization to make them more visible in Google. Some of them might have a low click-through rate through from Google. So how can I improve that? Or they might have few backlinks. So again, I want to be thinking about, is there possible PR activity that I could do to increase that? So then I start mapping out what those actions might look like. So, okay, I want to increase my traffic via other sources. So if I want to increase referral traffic, I need to be thinking about PR and link building. I might need to improve my internal linking. I'm going to do some new key phrase research and optimization, and I'm going to look at improving title tags and meta descriptions so that I can get more click-through from Google, and importantly, increase backlinks as well. So moving on to then starting to develop the content. So I've got some tools and tactics to share with you. So Google Trends is a free tool. It's a really interesting tool for seeing how searches are changing over time. So I have a client that operates in the logistics sector. So I'm quite interested to find out about next day delivery and what that looks like in terms of searches. So you can see here we've got some real peaks in terms of search, which you can probably start to guess what those might be related to. So next day delivery is related to key gifting periods, so Christmas, Valentine's gift, Mother's Day gifts. So clearly we've got some people that are leaving it right until the last minute to start buying their gifts for these occasions. So it's quite interesting to see how people are behaving in terms of their search behavior. But also, so in the tool further down on the page, it tells you where those searches are concentrated. So we can see here that actually the most searches are happening for next day delivery, and that's in Leeds. So what we might then start to think about, if we wanted to turn that into a campaign, if I was a company that is B2C, I do, I sell things that are relevant for gifts, I might want to create a campaign specifically targeted at media in the Leeds area, and tie it into this information. Well, actually, people in Leeds are the worst for leaving it to the last minute to buy their gifts. So here are the best gifts with the next day delivery. So you can start using it in different ways and thinking about different angles that you might want to take with that data. So it's worth having a play around and comparing different phrases and what those searches look like. Answer the public. So this is a really great tool. There is a free version, so you can do 2 searches per day for free. So choose them wisely. And it's a really, really great tool for looking at how people are searching around a specific topic. So if we're looking at something like digital marketing, when you put that in Google, you can see all of the different ways that people are searching around that topic. So what this tool does is then pull in all of that data and organizes it in a useful way that we can then use for helping us to plan our content. So it's really a direct line to our customers and tapping into what they're thinking and what they're wanting to know. So when we put a key phrase in the tool, this is the information that it throws out, and we can start to see that there are some interesting topics that we might want to consider for our content. So things like how would digital marketing change in the future? That could be an interesting topic for a piece of content. But it also allows you to download an Excel with all of that information in. So what I'll do, I'll get my Excel, I'll start going through the list and highlighting things that that might be relevant for creating content, and that gives me a list that I can then go away and do a bit more research from, and help me to plan and map out what that content might look like. So once I've started highlighting some of those phrases, what I'm then going to do, I'm going to put them in Google, and I'm going to see what those results look like currently, what the gaps might be, what might a customer want to know, what hasn't been covered previously. And I'm going to tie that in with using a Chrome extension called Keywords Everywhere. So you can use this at the same time that you are doing your searches, and what it will do is throw up additional key phrases that people are using around that topic and different ways that people are searching around that topic. So that's helping us to start pulling together key phrases so that we can optimize our content when it comes to creating it. People also ask, so when you Google anything, it's likely that you are going to see a people also ask box underneath the main answer. So what this does is pull in variations of how people are searching around a certain topic. And this is quite useful for starting to further map out that content. So we can compare this to the information that we've got from Answer the Public. We can start pulling all of this information together to further plan out and structure our content. And there's also a free tool that can help you see all of that information in a really nice way. So this is from Use Topic, and this is a people also ask tool. So this is doing the same job as what you're seeing in Google. It's just presenting it in a nice way so that you can work through that list and see that list in a useful way. Story mining. So this method isn't data-led, but what we're going to do quite often when we start working with a client, we'll have conversations with their marketing department, but we'll also have conversations with other departments and other colleagues. So it might be your customer service team, your HR department, department specialists, your IT department. It's worth asking them, you know, what common questions are they seeing from customers, or what are key industry topics that they want to be talking about? Are there any particular problems your customers have? How can you help to solve those problems? And it might be that you want to better understand what your best-selling products or services are. Is there a particular area of business where you've seen a huge increase in demand? Obviously, over the last year, behavior has changed massively in terms of online shopping, but in terms of the services that we're using or not using. So how's that impacted your business, and what comment can you make about that? You know, what kind of sales data do you have? If you're talking to your HR department, what are they doing in terms of recruitment and training? Are you investing in younger talent? Is there a skills gap? Those sorts of topics. And you might also want to be talking about industry issues or predictions as well. And while this method isn't data-led, what we're then going to do, once we've collated all of that information from various departments, we're then going to go back and plug that into the tools that we've looked at. So then we can start bringing in that data, and we can start bringing in key phrases relevant to this, so that we can create content that is doing its full job in terms of being visible in Google and being adaptable for PR as well. And as part of that story mining process, so within Google Analytics, you can actually see within the behavior section, we can look at site search, and we can see the exact terms that people are putting into the search box on our website. So it's worth having a look there. There might be some really common queries that come up. And again, that's really useful for creating content. You want to make sure that, you know, if you have customers where they, there's some really common questions that come up time and time again, or there's something on your website that they're looking for that they can't find easily. You might want to consider thinking about that customer journey and making that easier and more simple. So that's really, really useful for helping that process. So once we've got all of that information, we've started pulling together some ideas. What we then need to think about is how we're going to use that to create our content. And I've pulled out some stats here that I think are really relevant and just really help to underline how important this process is. So click-through rate for long tail keyword searches. So a long tail key phrase is it's a chunky phrase, so it might be in the form of a question or a query or a problem. So it's not a short phrase where people are looking to buy something. It's usually where they're looking to answer a specific question. And those key phrases have a higher click-through rate. So creating content with long tail key phrases is gonna, we're aiming to get a better click-through rate. Average content length, so 2,416 words is the average content length of articles that are in the top position in Google. So that really underlines, that content needs to be substantial to gain those valuable positions. 67.6%. So of the results on the first page of Google, so those first 5 organic results get 67% of all clicks. So it's really important that we're creating content that gets into those top 5 positions. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you're optimizing your content. 69.7% of search queries contain 4 words or more. So that really underlines the importance of those long tail key phrases. And then backlinks. So the top results on Google, so on that first page, the top results have 3.8 times more backlinks than those below them. So going back to those stats from before, 91% of pages aren't getting any organic traffic because they haven't got backlinks. So getting in those top positions and getting backlinks is really key to making your content work for you. And so one of the ways that we want to do that, that's going to tick some of those boxes, is gaining a featured snippet. So featured snippets sit right at the top of Google. It's a structured search result that typically answers a specific question, or it provides step-by-step instructions. It might provide an answer in the form of a list. And this is a really, really valuable position to be in because it provides you with additional brand exposure. But also the click-through rate can increase from 2% to 8% once your content is within that featured snippet. So that's really telling us that this is a key place to be. So we need to create content that is that can get us into that position. And how do we do that? So what we want to do is we want to be looking at some of that information that we've pulled from Answer the Public. So questions that people are asking, and we want to think about creating answers that really answer that query in a useful way. So we want to do that by incorporating long tail key phrases. So we've seen from those stats how important it is to have long tail key phrases. And we can then use those in a structured way to create our content, which is going to make us visible in Google. And we're going to be answering real customer queries. So it's content that customers want because they are specifically asking these questions. And then once we've created that content, we can then think about repurposing it for PR and for social. So what that looks like in Google, so you can see here, this is about PPC management costs. And so this appears as a featured snippet. And then when you click through, the content is structured so that it's going to take the user straight to this information, and it's going to highlight that information to make that process much, much easier for users. So it's really about the user journey. So with that in mind, we're going to look at the information that we've got from Answer the Public and from People Also Ask, and then we're going to start thinking about what kind of form that content might take and what kind of questions we want to look at. So we're looking at questions, we're thinking about problem solving, we're thinking about comparisons and how-tos with that content that we're creating. And I've just highlighted some variations on the same sort of search topic. So how digital marketing influences consumer behavior. So this is quite an interesting topic. This is one that I'm going to explore in a bit more detail. And what we've got to do whilst we are developing this process, we've got to keep in mind that we are creating content that we also want to use for PR. And ultimately, we need to be building links from it. So high quality content and link building, the two most important signals used by Google. We know that. So how do we build those backlinks? So when you're creating your content and then outreaching that with PR activity, we want to think about creating information and resources that warrant the inclusion of a backlink. So journalists and news sites are a lot more savvy than they used to be, and they will only include a link generally if it warrants a link. So it might be that you have a product that's being featured in a shopping guide or a gift guide, and that warrants having a link back because users might want to purchase that item. Using data and presenting data in an interesting way, that's a really good way of building backlinks, because that warrants a backlink because they need to link to you to credit you as the resource of that information. And that data could be your own data. It might be from what we've looked at, your site search info, or it might be sales, based around sales data or customer behavior. We might want to do a survey that creates that data. How-to guides, step-by-steps, FAQs, we can use those to try and build backlinks as well. So what we'll do is create a substantial resource, and then when we're doing PR, we're going to chop that down and make it more manageable. Downloadable or additional resources, so ebooks, white papers, research, anything that people can download, that warrants having a link because people need to access those. So then when we are starting to map out our content, so the topic that I was looking at was digital marketing influencing consumer behavior. So I'm going to start doing some key phrase research around that, and what are the particular phrases, long tail key phrases that people are using around that topic. And that's going to tell me the search volume, so how many people per month are searching for this. And it's going to give me a difficulty score as well. So I can see that actually it's going to be quite an easy topic or a more difficult topic to tap into. So then when I have done that and I've started putting together my key phrase research and my ideas, I'm going to plot it all on a calendar. And so this is really useful because we can create a calendar that has all of the different information in it. It's got all of the steps there. So we could share that with somebody else in our organization, and they've got all of the tools there that they need to then go off and create that content. And what we want to be doing is thinking about the type of content that we're creating. So is this going to be evergreen? Is it going to be topical? Where is that content going to sit? What's the main purpose of that content? What's the overall idea of it? We need to be plotting our key phrases, and we also need to be thinking about, well, are we aiming for a featured snippet? Does it need to be structured in this specific way? Yes, we are for most of these. For a case study, not so much. We're more focused with our case study. We're more focused on PR activity, but then we are looking at PR activity for the other topics as well. And then we also include information about where we're going to link to from that content, and whether there are any additional assets that we need or we need to create that we need to be aware of when we're planning and creating that content. So if we have an idea of what we're creating, we've mapped that out, we've planned what our key phrases are, we've planned what's going to be in that content. What we need to keep in mind is that we need to optimize that content in the same way that we would optimize a service page. So we need to be thinking about those key phrases and putting those in key positions on the page. So within the title tag, within the meta description, using it within the header tags, and using and incorporating that within our body content as well. And we need to be keeping to certain character lengths as well. So title tags and meta descriptions, they should be within these specific character lengths, and we should be writing them in a way that entices users to click through from Google. So, you know, if it's a product and you offer free delivery, that's kind of key information that you want to be getting in there to encourage people and to entice them in. But we also need to make sure that we're mentioning some of those keywords in there as well, because that will be that will appear in bold when somebody is Googling the key phrase. So that kind of helps you to start planning out how that content looks. And what I tend to do before I draft anything, so I've confirmed what my topic's going to be, I've confirmed what my key phrases are going to be, I'm then going to map that out on the page so that I know what that content looks like, how long that content is, what the different elements of that content are, and what I'm talking about. So that really helps to add that structure, but it's also making sure that I've got those key phrases that I have found, and I'm putting those in the right places and optimizing my content. And you can go back and do this process with existing content as well. So, you know, like we said earlier, a lot of clients we find actually have some really, really useful content on their site. It's just not structured in this way. So, you know, this is a process that you can apply to existing content. So we've got our content, we've planned our content, we've created our content. We then need to think about how we are going to use PR to gain traction. And the reason that we need to do that, so going back to some of those stats, 91% of all pages never get any organic traffic because they haven't got backlinks. So that's really a key part of the process. You know, it doesn't stop when you have published that content. We need to be driving traffic to it, and we need to make sure that it's doing its job and it's working the hardest that it can to bring your audience to you. And also, so the stats that we looked at as well, the top results on Google's first page have 3.8 times more backlinks than those below them. So we really need to be getting those backlinks in to get us into that strong position. And PR is the way that we do that. So some key stats to think about. So with PR, we need to think about a news hook and a specific angle for our story. So this, you know, it needs to be topical, it needs to be relevant and timely, and it needs to be easy to understand as well. So 70% of journalists spend less than 1 minute reading an email. So we need to get that message across really, really clearly so that a journalist, you know, we're going to really grab their attention, and they can see straight away what our story is and what we're trying to say with that story. So 45% of journalists want a clearly stated news hook. So that's really, really important when it comes to adapting your content for PR purposes. So how we do that. So when I'm creating an angle for my PR activity, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my content calendar and I'm going to start adapting that into a PR calendar. So, you know, we've got evergreen topics, but with PR, everything needs to be relevant and timely. So what we're going to have to do is add an angle to that so that it makes it timely for journalists now and it's of interest now. So with the first blog post we were mapping out on our calendar, that's a comparison of SEO and PPC, and that evergreen content is going to weigh up the benefits of both, depending on what your objectives and your time frame and the costs are. So that content's sitting on our website. It's building an audience over time. It's building links over time. But we're also going to do PR around that. And the way that we create an angle for that is that we tap into what's happening now. So SEO or PPC, what's the best tactic to get your business back on track? So we've seen huge disruption over the last year, and there's certain industries that have, you know, ground to a halt. People have completely stopped all of their marketing activities. So, you know, whether that's pubs or attractions, entertainment, you know, things that they didn't want to be spending money on marketing because they didn't have any audience or income coming in. So, you know, we can tap into what people are talking about now to make that evergreen topic and content relevant for the conversations that are happening in the media at the moment. And we can go through our calendar and we can do that for all of the different topics. So we've got paid social as well. So how might we adapt that and talk to a different audience? So the way that we're going to add a PR angle to that is we're going to talk about how to use paid social media for B2B marketing, because you know, a lot of companies might ignore that as a tactic because they don't think it's relevant. So that's how we're going to add an angle for that one. In terms of digital marketing tactics for the logistics industry, we can talk about, you know, top 5 tips for using digital marketing in logistics, and we can make those tips that aren't typically used in the industry. And then for the final one, digital marketing, and that was the one that we were looking at in Answer the Public. So how does digital marketing affect consumer behavior? How can it be used to influence consumer behavior? So the way that we might make this topical is to link it to Black Friday and create. So we've got our content and it's sitting on the site and it's talking about consumer behavior and using digital marketing. But then we're going to create an angle that talks about how to do that for Black Friday, when you need to cut through the noise because there are so many people competing for customers during that time. So they're just a few examples of different ways to think about the same content and ways that you can really maximize its impact and make sure that you are getting that in front of the maximum audience, and that it's really doing its job. Because if you are putting all of that effort into creating content, it needs to be visible, it needs to earn backlinks, and it needs to be PRable as well. And that's it. I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, I know I've seen some popping up, and I know the Annika team have been trying to answer those. But if there are any questions that you have that we haven't managed to cover during the session, please do give me a shout, and I'm happy to help you out and answer anything that I can.
Lily's asked a question. So you're suggesting rewriting the article for PR, or would you just put that angle in the email to the journalist?
No, I would rewrite it. So I would write that as a press release, because with a lot of the content that we're creating, it's big content. It's, you know, it's thousands of words, and what we want to do is chop that into a newsworthy angle and cut that down to no more than 500 words for our journalist, and we want to be really focused on the angle of that story.
Excellent. I wanted to make a comment about calendars, because you use the word content calendars, but just sort of had almost like a static picture. But when we do this, you know, you map it out over a number of weeks or months, don't you?
Yeah, so it's an Excel document, and it is, we refer to it as living and breathing. So we adapt that as we go along, because like I talked about, there's evergreen content, which, you know, we can work on at any time, but there's topical things that you might need to move around, or you might need to make way for some reactive content. So it's really important that that content calendar can be adaptable and can grow over time as you're bringing in new topics.
And when we do an integrated content marketing strategy, we don't just use PR and SEO, do we? We might use paid social, we might use organic social, email marketing. So, you know, there's even a bigger picture around the area that you've covered, but yours was really focused on the SEO content and the PR. I thought it was really good, a really good presentation. I mean, you got a huge amount in that period of time. I know a lot of people have to disappear. So first of all, I just wanted to do a bit of a plug for next week. We're going to be having a guest speaker from Global Media. You'll know them because they run Heart, Capital and LBC, which is great for B2B advertising. And Chris is going to be talking about audio advertising and out of home, which is the billboards and buses. But we're not just talking about traditional radio. We're talking about digital radio, podcasts, streaming. So a whole load of stuff there, and really interesting stuff for anybody that wants to get their brand out there, or even lead generation. We're getting a lot of love for your presentation today. So what I'm going to do is I am going to ask a few people if they mind leaving you a lovely review. So if you would like to leave Sarah a review, that would be brilliant. They are clocking up. I think we're at 130 now. So please leave Sarah a review if you've enjoyed today's webinar. We're still planning to get back to a live event soon. I'm not quite sure exactly when that will be. Looks like it's going to be August, but we'll keep on going with our program of webinars. And as I said, I think we've got one for next week, and we're just having a mix of the team and some guest speakers going forward. But thank you very much, everybody. We'll get you the video in a couple of hours. It just takes a couple of hours to process, and hopefully you've got the handouts. And thanks, Sarah. That was really brilliant. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.